Coronation Street actress Julia Goulding has opened up exclusively to Digital Spy about the possibility of Doug Ramsey returning to the cobbles as the growing tension between her character Shona Platt and her sister Jodie continues to intensify. Doug previously made a brief appearance earlier this year after Shona discovered Jodie by their estranged father's bedside at a psychiatric hospital. With the sisters' complicated relationship becoming increasingly dramatic, Julia has admitted that she would love to explore more of Doug's connection with his daughters. Julia spoke to us during a special photo shoot celebrating Coronation Street's nominations at the Inside Soap Awards 2026. The exclusive pictures feature in this week's bumper edition of Inside Soap, which is available now. In an exclusive behind-the-scenes video from the photo shoot, Julia discussed her hopes for Shona, David, Jodie, and the wider Platt family. Being nominated for Best Partnership with Jack P. Shepard as Shona and David is incredibly exciting. It's an award we've never managed to win, and after working together for 10 years, winning it during our 10th anniversary would be absolutely wonderful. Being nominated for Best Family is also fantastic. I mean, they're the Platts. Of course, we're the best family. I believe we won the award a few years ago, too, so it's lovely to see the family nominated once again. It's Coronation Street. We're the original. We've delivered some brilliant storylines and some amazing performances, so I genuinely believe we deserve to take home the award. I think viewers should be seriously concerned about David and Shona. Jodie is capable of getting herself into all kinds of trouble, and I wouldn't rule out something much darker happening. So yes, fans should definitely be worried. I'd love to believe David and Shona could overcome absolutely anything together, but you never really know. Jodie is incredibly calculating and knows exactly how to manipulate people, so everyone will have to wait and see what happens. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not even convinced Jodie knows herself. She's definitely trying to become Shona in her own way. I think Jodie believes she deserves more because Shona has built a relatively comfortable life for herself. But I always remind people that Shona isn't Jodie's mother. Shona was thrown out when she was just 13 with her baby, so I don't necessarily think she's done anything wrong. Although, obviously, I'm going to say that because I play her. I can't confirm or rule anything out. However, working with Steve Evets was fantastic, and I would personally be thrilled to see Doug Ramsey return to the cobbles. I think Shona hasn't been as focused on Jodie because she has a very young baby who has been extremely unwell. She spent so much time in hospital and constantly traveling back and forth that she barely knows which way is up. I think that situation has distracted her and affected how quickly she can recognize what Jodie is really doing. And of course, she is also dealing with a brain injury. I absolutely love being part of Coronation Street, and I always have done. I always will. Sally and Tim's lives are turned upside down after a devastating tragedy in Coronation Street. Everything begins when Tim's cousin Richie arrives on the street searching for a place to stay. After getting a message from his wife, Rachel, Richie admits that he is in serious trouble after spending the entire night away from home. When Sally returns, Tim attempts to hide the truth by telling her that he had spent a quiet night playing board games with his friends. However, his story quickly starts to unravel. Richie soon comes back with a suitcase and explains that Rachel has kicked him out of their home. With few alternatives available, Tim reluctantly confesses that he actually spent the night drinking with his cousin. Sally reluctantly agrees to allow Richie to remain at number 4 for a little longer, but the temporary arrangement soon falls apart. Eventually, Sally becomes frustrated and tells Tim that she wants Richie to leave. Richie says he will travel to Liverpool and stay with a friend instead. As Tim helps his cousin into a taxi, he urges Richie not to abandon his marriage and encourages him to return home and try to repair things with Rachel. Sadly, those final words soon become painfully significant. Once Richie has gone, Tim notices that his cousin's wallet has been left underneath the sofa. Wanting to give it back, he makes his way to Richie's home. When Richie opens the door, Tim instantly senses that something is seriously wrong. Richie looks bewildered and is dressed in a shirt covered with blood. Shocked by the horrifying scene inside the property, Tim immediately contacts the police. The next morning, Sally and Tim sit together in disbelief after spending a sleepless night trying to understand the horrifying events that have unfolded. Detective Lisa Swain then arrives with devastating information. Richie has been arrested and charged with murdering his wife Rachel, although he maintains that he was acting in self-defense. Lisa also delivers another heartbreaking revelation. Richie's daughter Lucy has been placed into care following her mother's death. The devastating news deeply affects Tim, and he soon becomes determined to help the young girl. When social worker Ruth calls Sally and explains that Lucy's foster placement has broken down and finding another suitable home is proving difficult, Tim makes a major decision without first speaking to Sally. He offers to take Lucy into their home. Although Sally is completely taken by surprise, she tries to remain supportive when Lucy arrives. Ruth explains that the young girl is dealing with overwhelming grief and emotional trauma after everything she has experienced, meaning she will need considerable patience, understanding, and comfort. After desperately searching the area, Sally and Tim eventually discover Lucy sitting by herself at a bus stop and carefully convince her to come back home with them. Later that week, Sally and Tim are suddenly awakened by a frightening scream. They rush to Lucy and find her extremely distressed after experiencing a horrifying nightmare. Coronation Street sets up a surprising confrontation between Dylan and Ronnie. Coronation Street is preparing to feature an unexpected showdown between Dylan Wilson and Ronnie Bailey in tomorrow's episode. Both men are dealing with enormous pressure in their personal lives. Dylan is struggling with the fact that his actions accidentally caused Betsy Swain's stroke, while many people across Weatherfield continue to suspect that he deliberately harmed her. At the same time, Ronnie is finding it increasingly difficult to cope with his wife Debbie's worsening dementia. During the upcoming scenes, Ronnie confides in Ed, Michael, and James about his growing fears while they are together at Speed Doll. When Dylan approaches the table to take their order, Ronnie responds coldly, leaving Dylan feeling offended. The situation soon becomes heated, forcing Alia Nazir to step in before the argument gets any worse. Discussing the storyline, Dylan actor Liam McSheen admitted that his character ends up directing his frustration at the wrong person when he clashes with Ronnie. For Dylan, the reaction comes from intense embarrassment and complete disbelief over everything that has happened. At this stage, he still hasn't fully processed the reality of the situation. What happened has changed his life forever. He caused his girlfriend to end up in hospital and left her with a life-changing injury. That embarrassment is overwhelming for him. He wants to disappear from everyone and pretend that life can somehow return to normal. But how is an 18-year-old supposed to deal with something this enormous? I think viewers should remember just how young both Dylan and Betsy really are. In some ways, they're experiencing this terrible situation side by side, almost as though the two of them are facing the entire world together. From an actor's perspective, exploring that kind of emotional turmoil and then portraying the journey towards rebuilding their lives would be extremely rewarding. Coronation Street continues on weekday evenings at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.